Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alicia and I am a mom of 3 small children. I have Lydia is about to be a kindergartner, Eliza is 3 in preschool, and Mary Jo will be 8 months on the 26th. Today I want to share with you some easy ways that I have managed to homeschool my children for cheap or free. When I was watching a video that I made of last week, I noticed that a lot of the stuff that I showed you, I said that I had found it at a thrift store, or it was given to me, or I found it on clearance. So I thought, what a great idea to share with people how you can homeschool for cheap or free. So when we decided that we were going to homeschool, the first thought that came to mind, and I think comes to most people's minds, is, well, what curriculum are we going to use? And the truth is, there's so many curriculums out there. You can just Google homeschool curriculum and you will be flooded with 1,000 different options. And so I would look into new ones every now and then. Maybe they would pop up on a Facebook ad, or I would hear about them through the grapevine. And I just got overwhelmed with the ideas out there. But also I didn't want to spend the price on some of these, because you can easily spend $200 or $300 a year just on curriculum. And I really didn't want to go that route. But as time has gone on, my children have actually wanted to learn and start school, as they called it. And so I did a few things to be able to teach them without having to spend a lot of money. So the first thing that you can do is go on the internet and type in, what does my kid need to know at the age they are? So when my oldest was 2, I was looking up, what should she be learning? When she was 3, what should she be learning? And I had to keep in mind that not every child is on the same wavelength, if you will. Like, different children are ready for different things, but in general, like 2-year-olds have certain milestones or certain things that they're ready for. One of the things I read, it said that they should be able to tell that a lion and a tiger are cats, but yet they're 2 different animals. And so I went online and I thought, okay, what animals look the same? And so I printed off pictures of I think it was a lion, tiger, leopard, and then a wolf, fox, and coyote. And I printed them off, cut them out, and laminated them. And then I would ask my child, I'd say, okay, I put them all together and I'd say, can you find the dogs? And she'd find the dogs. And then I'd say, can you find the cats? And she would find all the cats. Now, you can also look up on the internet different ways to teach your kids those things. I'm not 100% familiar with things over kindergarten because I don't have children at those ages, but you could probably find games and lessons for free, or maybe for a small amount. There's Teachers Pay Teachers and a few other websites where you can go and find activities that people have already done. Like, you can also find free printables. Sometimes if my children want something to do, or they just aren't interested in doing anything that we have around the house, I will just print off, I think one time I printed off an Elsa's name for her to, a trace of Elsa's name and all of their friends, and I printed that off from both my girls, and so they traced the names and then they colored the paper, and that was a little activity that they could do for tracing and spelling and ABCs. Another thing that a homeschool mom did that I had talked to one time, she said that she had been a teacher and she really didn't want to do anything too formal with her kids, because she had taught very formal academics and she just didn't really want to go that approach with her kids. And so she would just look at it's called the scope and sequence. It's the standards that each state has for children at each level. And so she would go on the Board of Education website for her state, and then she would make a list of all the things that that child was supposed to learn that year, and then they would just go over it. And whenever her kid learned it, she'd check it off. Okay, little Johnny learned to count to 100, check it off. He learned his ABCs, check it off. And that's the way she would do it with her kids. And that was her lesson plan. And then I think one of her children was like 9 or 10, and they asked for a formal curriculum. And so she did a research and she bought one. But other than that, like, her kids just learned through her checklist. Another way that you can get things for free is to put the word out that you're homeschooling. You will be surprised by the amount of stuff people will give you. I've had so many people give me things. They just cleaned out their closets or toys or what have you, and they said, hey, I'm not using this, could you use it? The map, I don't know if you can see it, the map in this ABC board behind me, a friend of mine was cleaning out her, I guess a closet or something, I don't know, but she was cleaning out, she used to babysit children, and I guess she'd had it for them. So she gave me those, and I've used them to teach my daughters the things that they need to know. They can locate where we live on a map, and they like to use the little ABC cards for ABCs. For birthdays and Christmases, grandparents, friends, neighbors, they give us things that are educational as well. And two other things that I don't think people often think about is nature and housework. Nature, I think, is something that we don't often think about. It's not something I thought about because I didn't really grow up with that sort of education philosophy, but when you think about it, children learn a lot just by being outside. And when you think of, they learn that there are trees, but there are many different kinds of trees. There's categories. They learn just by watching bees. How would it, I'm sure it's more helpful to learn about pollination and life cycle years down the road if they have watched bees pollinate flowers as little children, or if they've observed little larvae or what have you. And so if they can observe it when they're little, then they already have that idea in their mind, and they can learn the formal science behind it once they're older. Now let's talk housework. If a child, even from a small age, can sort forks and spoons and butter knives, or they're responsible for keeping their toys clean or put away, if they're responsible for making their bed, all these little things build habits in children, and they naturally, I think, are drawn to neatness. It's kind of funny because my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old both enjoy having a neat workspace when we do school. They don't like having stuff everywhere. And lastly, for the free things that I was given, I learned very quickly that I have to get creative in the way that I use those. So let's talk cheap resources. So when it comes to cheap resources, I have found the thrift store, the Dollar Tree, and Target Dollar Spot to be really good resources. I don't go to Target Dollar Spot a lot, but I have seen some books there, some toys and little things that young children could use for just a few dollars. Dollar Tree actually does carry little notebooks. I think they're called morning starters, and maybe some other kinds too. I think I bought them once, but I overestimated what my 2-year-old could do because I think they were for older children, but you could definitely use those if that's the way you're wanting to go. And finally, thrift stores. You could find good books there to teach your children from. And I found some pretty good toys at thrift store. I really like the Melissa and Doug brand because they're made out of wood and natural materials. And so I found like little counting things, and they have different shapes, and the child can stack 1 for the number 1 and 2 for the number 2 and so on. Now, if you're wanting to go a little bit more formal but not as expensive, you can also purchase workbooks from a place like Amazon or Barnes & Noble. This past year I decided to purchase the Highlights curriculum from Barnes & Noble as well as the Brain Quest workbooks. In theory, I didn't have to do that, but I did want something a little bit more because my girls have been asking to do school, and I tried making up my own stuff and I just overwhelmed myself. So just to get a little bit, just to help myself out, I decided to go that route. But I didn't want anything super formal, maybe that had 10 different subjects and tests and all that. Final tip that I want to leave you with is to find free stuff online or through subscription services that you already have. There are so many homeschool friendly or homeschool specific channels on YouTube. One in particular that I've been using is called Homeschool Pop, and it's obviously free, and they have a lot of really good stuff on so many different topics. Now, there's also some free apps and free curriculum. I know that the Khan Academy is free, and I think it goes all the way up through high school, if not just middle school. You'll have to check. But there's also Khan Academy Kids, which my girls did for a while. It's basically a free app, and you just put in the child's age. It's similar to ABC Mouse in the idea of being an app. And so you just go online, or you go on the app, and the kids can play. My girls figured it out pretty quickly. There's another free curriculum online called Easy Peasy All-in-One Homeschool. I looked at that one, but for me, I just don't like the idea of doing all of our stuff on an online curriculum that's already laid out. If we're going to be doing online, I want something more interactive. So I don't think that would work for us, but I know that it's worked well for some people. Another thing that you could do is use subscription services. So if you have Amazon Prime or Netflix or Hulu, I think even my library has Hoopla, and it has different videos on it. So there you could do historical documentaries, you could do science or nutrition. There's so many. I've watched a lot of really good informative documentaries just on Netflix when we had it, and then on Amazon Prime, and YouTube has a lot of free stuff too. So you could take advantage of those. Those are such great resources to educate your children. There's so many resources out there. It's actually interesting. I had read a book several years ago when I first started thinking about homeschooling, and the book was by these people. It was called The Big Book of Homeschool, and it was by this lady who had kind of pioneered homeschooling. I don't think she meant to, but her family was one of the first like actual homeschool families, before there were laws protecting them, before there was like a thing for it. Like they were that, and they didn't have curriculums. She said like they pretty much had the dollar store and the Bible. Like that's pretty much all they had, and the library. And so she used those resources and what they had at home to teach her children. That's what she had. And everything, and to teach her son to read, she opened up the Bible, and they went word by word reading the Bible. And that's how her son learned to read. When he was ready, he asked her, and she did it. So that is very from scratch education. But today there are so many new things, so many resources that you can use to teach your child what they need to know, and you don't have to spend a lot of money. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful and that you found some new ideas to help you educate your child.